I'm great. Thanks for asking. Hope you're well and as warm as it can be.
Yep.
I got a, I think I didn't reveal where I was last show. And that's, I was in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and I'm not there now. But it was kind of amazing to see. The first time I went to Kuala Lumpur was in 1994, so approximately 30 years ago, and I stayed in the same hotel, and a very nice hotel. But back then, there wasn't that much around it. And now it's like this whole much nicer than Hudson Yards area with the Petronas Towers, or three of them are gigantic. Um, and all of
When was
this,
that completed, Charles? Those towers?
I don't know. I don't know, but it's like around the Petronas Towers, a bunch of billionaires just said to their design teams and architects, look, spend my money. I have too much money. Just do whatever you want. There are all these amazing buildings there and throughout Kuala Lumpur. And it's building cranes everywhere, brimming with excitement. Yet the people are still, it's a diverse culture, actually. It's not uniform. And people are getting along. Um, Tourists are thriving, businesses are thriving. It's just the polar opposite of what it's like to walk through JFK Airport or Newark or LaGuardia or, God forbid, go through Grand Central Station or Port Authority. Now, we're not the greatest city on earth in New York anymore, not even close.
Well, they're getting ready to stomp it into the ground anyway. Did you see this news, Charles, yesterday that there were a bunch of Hamas terrorists attacking the fence at the White House? I didn't see the U.S. Capitol Police shoot them with rubber bullets and spray them with tear gas and throw them in jail for 3 years.
Not a single arrest was made.
How do they?
Not a single. And the same thing happened in London. There was a demonstration with a whole bunch of protesters, and one of the guys, I think his name was something Al Kurd, but I really, with this comment, would call him Al Turd, is the way I pronounce it. He got up in front of Parliament Square in London, and he said, "It is time to normalize massacres."
Yeah.
You know, and that's not that. You know, we talk about shouting fire in a crowded theater. That's it. I mean, you can't be coming into England, into the U.S. and be taking money or giving money to people who are calling for the radical overthrow of this country and the creation of a single religion state where everybody who doesn't adhere to that religion or any religion is to be put to death. I mean, that's outrageous stuff. And anybody who could come close to supporting that theory in the UK or in the US is clearly a traitor to either country, and clearly should be prosecuted.
Well,
If these are illegal immigrants coming in and espousing this kind of stuff, they should be deported the fuck back to wherever, Gaza or you name it.
Wait, Charles, he's responded because the Post is saying that the UK police, did something. And so this guy says, I was clearly saying we shouldn't be complacent. We shouldn't normalize massacres. So he's flip-flopping and seems to be changing exactly the opposite of what he said. But this is crazy, Charles. We've got people with a foreign nation's flag literally crashing the gates at the White House. In my opinion, why don't they have the army out there?
Well, it's a bad optic to have the army defending or the National Guard defending the White House. But I agree with you. I mean, and then I was just watching footage of a clown show of Latrine Jean-Pierre trying to deflect Peter Doocy's points about is the border open, yes or no, and her lame non-responses. Well, we've done more than any other administration to try to solve a decades-old problem at the border. And it's the Republicans who are not, in other words, doing a grand compromise to give, amnesty to all the many people who are already here. It's just a non-answer. These people, we talk and they think sex lies. We're in a place now where lies actually do have consequences. They have terrible consequences. We've been lied to in academia. We have all these fake professors, including the former president of Harvard and many others like her, who in fact don't know how to educate anybody, let alone our precious future generations. Then we have fake doctors like Fauci, who it turns out, as we suspected, and you in particular suspected, these ridiculous ideas of his and these ridiculous lies about what was truly going on at Wuhan. How much damage has been caused by him and his team, and Biden and his team of idiots? Remember the first thing they did with those flags? And I forget where they were, commemorating all the people who died of COVID and try to blame that on Trump.
Huh.
I mean, it's just, so we've got doctors who lie, teachers who lie. And mainstream media should just stop working. I mean, honestly, if Bezos spent $250 million on the Washington Post, I'd write it off. So you guys are, it's just, he's worth $100 billion or whatever he's worth. Just say so I made a mistake. You're all done. Nobody gives a shit what you think, because you publish so much crap. Right?
I want to be in this board meeting, Charles, but wait a second. The Wall Street Journal has an opinion piece here from whenever it says the editorial board, I'm skeptical, but it's saying Anthony Fauci fesses up. It turns out 6 feet social distancing had no scientific basis.
You don't get to do that.
Right.
You don't get to go. You don't get to take all this money as the highest paid government official and all this, your wife and whatever, and all your supposed inventions. You don't get to lock, many children down in particular, and then say your party is the party for the children that care about, to care about the vulnerable. You don't get to say we didn't think about that when we insisted for 2 years that everybody, stay at home and limit their activities. And you take the growth trajectory, which is so essential in human activity, just you crimp it, you turn it the wrong direction, and you claim all on the basis of science. And now you're going to tell us there was no science because you don't know what science is. Fuck off. And there needs to be prosecutions. People need to be held accountable. Fauci needs to be stripped of his pension. He needs to even go through a legal process, find out the charges that are appropriate. But the penalties for him should be crippling, so that the future Faucis, and there are a lot of them waddling around and mincing around the academic and medical worlds, and Tedros at the World Health Organization. So those people understand you don't get away with this bullshit. You don't get to come up with a self-serving opinion that is not grounded in any kind of evidence, or ignore evidence that you're wrong, and then use the power of multiple governments to persecute critics, and now say, well, actually the critics were right. I'm sorry. You don't get to do that.
Let me keep you on this for a second, Charles, because you mentioned Fauci's wife, and there's an interesting angle here I think people are going to want to hear your opinion about. Fauci's wife is the head of bioethics at the NIH. Right. And for people who maybe aren't familiar with that, it's a field of study that has to do with, rather than this explanation, let's just look at this. It's the study of ethical, social, and legal issues that arise in biomedicine and biomedical research. Now, this notion of telling everybody, 6 feet and 2 weeks to stop the spread, everybody knows you're a father, and when kids are little, maybe you got a kid who's like 3 or 4, like around the age where kids can kind of like create full sentences but still don't really have any idea what the hell they're talking about or what's going on, and you really can't share complicated and traumatic ideas with a child because they just don't have the maturity and the tools to deal with it. So if a child needed to go to the hospital for something terrible, you as a father might need to tell them, hey, there's a present for you at the hospital or whatever, and tell them something that's not actually the truth, but it's for their own good. We can't, first of all, have a situation where we as adults, everybody in the United States of America, are being treated like 4-year-olds by Dr. Fauci. And secondarily, I think if it's your own child who's 4 and you're trying to coerce them to go to a hospital or do something that's good for them that they might not want to do, that's your discretion. What's the deal? I know you're not a lawyer, but the bioethics of lying to everybody, and for what purpose?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these resumes, in the case of both of these people. doctors should be limited to, all people should be limited to a resume in 12-point type of not more than 1 page. That's it. These 85-page resumes, which I would guess his wife has and he has, all these co-authored studies and, awards that they give each other, and the ability that Fauci had it, and maybe she has to direct money. This all got to stop. I mean, I was one of those kids who had a serious problem with pneumonia, both at age around 4 or 5, and then age 13. And I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what. I didn't really know at age 4 or 5 that what death meant. It was kind of like whatever. But I think when you're dealing, the problem is not so much talking to children. The problem is that and I don't know, maybe I misunderstood what you said. The problem is that we're being talked to by people who don't know the truth. They really don't know what's going on, but they have to cloak their opinion in authority. So they whenever you try to ask a reasonable question, you did or I did about COVID or other things, if they get to the end of their ability to try to fend you off, they'll say, well, it's national security, or you're putting the health of the world at risk by pursuing this reasoning. And, vaccine skepticism is outrageous. It's like birtherism and this, that is the non-argument. I was taught early on by my father and mother and others, there is nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with saying that. It's much better to say, I don't know, than to say, follow the alliance, 6 feet, masks work. It's much worse to do that as I'm the head of the NIH. I've been or whatever it is. I've been working government for 60 years. And, how could you have the impudence without, all the awards and honors that I have, even dare to question my informed conclusion? You shouldn't be able to do that. And yet they do it. And the fact is, when you pair that reality up with the percentage of gross domestic product that is consumed by healthcare expenditures in this country, it's obscenely high, and our healthcare system sucks compared to other alternatives in city-states like Dubai and Singapore and other places. This is an obvious place, I think, this exercise for vast cuts. The Masters of Public Health Administration degree needs to be abolished as a tax-exempt thing. If you want to spend money at Laureate University to get a twin degree from the Saudi Arabian School of Beauty and the Masters in Public at the Clinton School of Public Health, where Chelsea Clinton can be the dean, by all means, go do that. But you're not going to it's not tax deductible.
They have a gynecology program there, but I don't think it's matriculated. It's just an amateur. It's more of a club, really.
It's unclear who leads that, whether I think Hillary's more interested in that program than Bill. But anyway.
Well, and, Charles, there's a lot of stuff that has been going on. While you were gone, we had the video shoot portion of today's title. We had, Hunter Biden. Everybody's making a big deal about him disrupting just by coming in there. But I mean, it's just by chance that I noticed this gimbal stabilized camera poking its head into Mr. Biggs' shot right here. If we were on set, this guy would get yelled at, and certainly the C-SPAN operator would have yelled at him there. I've discovered so much more about this dope since the other day, Charles. We've got this guy's name. The camera operator is apparently a dude named Adam Camacho, and here we have a clear shot. We can see he's got a Sony FX3 and a 12-bit recorder. I separately found this guy's Instagram account where he liked an article that was talking about how Netflix has just certified the Sony FX3 if you record it in 12-bit. And here he is doing exactly that. So we've got this guy, and I also have found other video that seems to indicate that there was another camera operator with them that he seems to be communicating with. So I'm trying to get this information to people in Congress who can charge these guys with an additional helping of contempt of Congress. I do not believe that you're allowed to go in there and just make videos. So look at this guy. There's one guy leading. He's got an LED light on his camera. You can see right there. And Hunter Biden is the subject. Watch the right upper portion of the frame. Our friend Adam Camacho is going to step into the frame, and you're going to see him make eye contact with the other operator who's just stepped out of frame. So Camacho seems to be both the director and the A camera operator. Here he is coming in. Watch his head. He looks at the other, he nods his head right there, looking at him saying, I've got the shot. I've got Hunter. Because they're hunting for this live shot. This is how a documentary crew in a real situation works. They're not, it's not like cut, Hunter, go back to one and let's do it again, come in again. You've got to get it right now. So they're all over it. But the point is, they've got people stationed in the room. They've got people waiting inside. They're conducting a for-profit commercial film shoot. This is not news gathering. And when you look at the rules for bringing cameras into the Rayburn office building, it's pretty lengthy. I don't think what they did adheres to the rules, and it's certainly disrupted Congress. And I don't see how they're not guilty of exactly what the people on January 6th are being charged with, obstructing an official proceeding of Congress.
I think this is reminiscent of, the approach that Saddam Hussein's sons, Uday and somebody else, the way they behaved in Iraq.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the way Biden for decades has behaved with his various family members. That his noble public service should be ignoble, I-G and noble. Uday and Qusay, yeah, that's what we have here in Hunter. And Bo gets a pass because he's dead. But I bet you if we went into what he was doing as Attorney General, when Joe was whatever he was, senator and then eventually vice president, I bet you'd find out that Beau Biden was no saint either. And on the Republican side, clearly the Bush family are grifters, and there are other, McConnell's a grifter, Romney's family is grifters. So it's not. This isn't a conservative attack on Democrats. This is an independent attack on grifts from both parties at a time when our debt is now soon going to be $35 trillion. That's our actual known debt. Unfunded liabilities, who knows what they are. This is ridiculous that we're tolerating this, and it's ridiculous that the American public is tolerating it. On the other hand, good piece of news out of Zero Hedge, some recent poll or something, suggesting that independents, as we've been saying for some time, are indeed the most consequential voting bloc in this country. Independents. It's a Zero Hedge story. Yeah, there it is. And I think that any survey right now undercounts the degree of dissatisfaction with the regime and with the deep state, because the people who are sensible see how the Biden administration and rhinos are quite prepared to persecute even people as big as the former president. So there, if you get a question on a phone number you don't know, and they start asking you questions about your political views, only a fool would tell the truth. But so with that caveat, that context, as they like to say, this latest story confirms my own inclinations or predispositions. Because how could you be proud to be either a Democrat or a Republican at this stage? Both teams are losers. It's like, and people aren't particularly interested in what other party, what the chairman of the Republican Party has to say. I don't even know who the chairman of the Democratic Party is. It's probably Methuselah in Washington Square Park.
You're right. I don't know who it is either. We've been seeing a lot of news coming out of Iowa. They're saying that they're having record-breaking, all-time crazy low temperatures and lots of snow.
Well, yeah. And this obvious ploy to put Bush money, Bush type backers behind Nikki Haley, I don't think that's going to work. And this trick of having Democrats vote in the attend the Republican caucuses, all of that, I don't think is going to create an upset here. I think Trump will win. And on Vivek, I don't know how much time we have. Maybe we should talk the details on that.
Yeah, we still have 5 minutes, but I think people definitely want to hear what you have to say about the MAGA family feud between Trump and Vivek.
Right, and the Vivek story we'll talk about in the next block. But I think Marco Rubio just endorsed Trump. That guy from North Dakota he's rich, but being the governor of North Dakota, it's like saying, okay, great, so you like the coal. That's nice. But he never had a realistic shot. But I think, and even the fat boy got out, Chris Christie.
Oh, Doug
so
Bergman,
at this stage,
you're saying dropped out.
Yeah, he dropped out. And endorsed Trump.
Well, what do you think is going to happen with Ron DeSantis? Laura Loomer confronted him. He just looked pathetic. I mean, honestly, the Laura Loomer confrontation, if you can't handle her, you can't be president.
Yeah, I mean, he was a president in concept only. This will go down, I think, sadly for him, or maybe it'll end up being good for him. But in terms of his political prowess, he was shown to be an idiot. I mean, he had a very strong backer in Trump when he was governor. He could have just stayed in the Sunshine State. He could have avoided all these ridiculous pancake breakfasts in New Hampshire and all this kind of stuff. And he could have just stayed with his family, not run in this 2024 contest, and he probably would have been Trump's VP as a bet. But instead, he committed political suicide, and he's tripling it down on it. It's like he's like that scene in the Monty Python thing. I'm not dead, right? Yeah. None will pass. That one.
He really did. The political suicide comment is apt. It's almost, and I mean that also shows incredibly poor judgment because I mean, how could you be so stupid, Ron? I can't find the Laura piece here.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think you're down really to DeSantis and Nikki, and Nikki, it has nothing to do with her sex. It has everything to do with her being just another slimy Jeb Bush in a skirt. I mean, she's and her comments, to say that Hunter Biden deserves a pardon, she would consider giving Hunter Biden a pardon, and the Biden family a pardon. Are you fucking out of your mind? You're trying to run for the Democratic nomination because you can't do that because the party that is warning that Trump's going to take away democracy is taking away democracy for the Democratic Party. You are just going to eat Biden as he's your nominee. Like it, lump it. We're going to give you a spork. Combinations, knife, spoon, and fork to eat your Biden.
Real quick, you're going to love it. In our last minute here, Ron DeSantis avoids Laura, goes into the elevator. She's got a number of still images of him looking quite ridiculous. What's your opinion? If you were in Ron DeSantis's position, obviously you never would be because your demeanor is just completely different than his. Don't you think it would have been much stronger for him to stop, engage with Laura?
Yeah. He
just looked terrible right there.
He does. And his campaign has basically been pathetic. I mean, so maybe it's good. Maybe this will save him from a life of losing elections over and over again, and you go into private practice and become a billionaire developing real estate or something down in Florida.
I don't think so. But with that, Charles, we are going to make our way over to the First Amendment Forum. People are going to be able to join us on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. People are chatting about how Nikki Haley likes Hillary Clinton and stuff, so we're going to talk about all of that. Stay with us, everybody. Cool. We'll be right back. Thanks for tuning in.